Been a while. Since I've done like an RV video. Today, replacing the backup camera on the Monaco, the 2008 Monaco Dynasty. Hold on here, Diamond 4. So, hanging up top out back, the old perimeter view camera, kind of mounted, as you can tell here, with a bracket to these two screws here. So I'm actually going to do something different. We'll see. Just going to mount this Voyager, the new Voyager. This is the VCM S24 Voyager color camera. I got this from RV Cams. Got wiring instructions. I'll have to cut into the wire to use the new harness, and all said and done, the camera and the mount, $234. But yeah, basically the way it'll work, I'll connect the cable run here, and then I'll cut the cable harness, and then I'll have these two pieces that I'll open up. And when I open this one up, based on the type of wiring configuration, I'll wire it into the 4 of the 8 wires that are in the original cable, and then on the other end under the dash going into the Aladdin system, I'll have to wire this piece to the incoming cable the same way. And then there's this part that'll connect to that. And then I don't even know if I have audio going into the Aladdin, but at a minimum I'll have the video that's there already. So, time to get started. Alright, so, with the camera housing plate, when you take the old camera out, there was a hole here. For some reason I thought it might be plexiglass, and I could mount the new camera bracket on the outside to that, but I ended up having to cut a little piece of sheet metal, glued that in with some Permatex adhesive sealant, and actually I was able to use the old screw bolts, well, new ones, but I was able to get a washer to kind of hold that while it dried, but it sealed up really nice. Sealed it here too, and then I painted this black. Got a few spots I missed, but oh well. So got that drilled out using 8/32 stainless steel hardware here. I'm going to put a few rubber washers on each side of it just to help with vibration, I guess. With the Voyager camera, I did the 8-pin solder seal to the new 4-wire connector that'll connect to that on the back here, and then I'll have to do that under the dash yet. Coming along. And get this thing mounted today, this morning. Alright, I had to also drill the hole for the connector. I had to shave off the little thing here, which is fine, but that'll go in there, and I actually have a grommet. I'll seal it up. It looks like that'll work. So, just about there on the fabrication. Well, I had a little plumbing project here. This outdoor faucet in the wet bay. Ever since I had it, anytime I would turn any of the faucets on, of course they were leaking, and I don't even know where they were leaking now, I forget. But I took it all apart, had some pictures of the seals. Some seals up in this one. This is a backflow preventer thing. I don't even know why that's on the shower thing. I guess there was a reason. Some seals on this one too, so I had to buy a couple of different seal kits to get all the small ones and proper sizes. But anyway, got the water up, but I've got it all mounted again, nice and tight. I went ahead and taped everything, and new seals all throughout. So yeah, it's an old relic, 08 original, I guess. But I guess when I turn the water on, I'll find out if everything's working as expected soon. It's still de-winterized, or winterized. All right, yet another project was the auxiliary air compressor. when we finally got it addressed, it turned out it was the pressure switch, and the auxiliary air compressor is used for the airbag leveling when you're parked. Anyway, it's mounted in between the front wheels, back in that cavity, just up on a little frame. It's just an old model, but I couldn't even tell what model it was. But anyway, it turned out the pressure switch was bad, and it hadn't run for the 2 years I've owned this coach. Never heard it run, and found out that's needed to be repaired. So when my truck guy repaired it, he told me that the hot lead, which looks original in a harness, was always hot. So I wired a switch so I could turn it off and on, and just turn it on when I want to use it for that. So I mounted it up on the driver left dash, panel where the leveling control is. And right here is where I brought the cable through. This is just a 2-conductor, red black wire in the casing. But I went straight up this 12-volt box. It's under the driver area. And I was able to fish it up and mount it up above there. I'll show that in a second. Got a couple of grommets here I'm just going to stick in there, and I'm going to put a little Permatex adhesive sealant around those to kind of hold them. And then this cable that, went out the box here goes out in front of the front tire and over to some wiring harness, and fished it over there to the the auxiliary compressor. So I'll show some stuff here in a minute on that, but I'm going to seal this up real quick. All right, just a little final, not pretty, but had to kind of glob the sealant on there. The grommets, it was hard to get them to sit right as they should, but they were in there enough. I could just glob that around it to get a good seal. And I put some on the other side of the wall for this one here too, since it's exposed on the outside. So that ought to be fine. That ought to hold it there pretty good. So we'll see in time. All right, I'm not going to crawl all the way up under there, but basically, okay, there's the that's the driver's side over there, but the auxiliary air compressor's sitting on this platform up in that cavity there, and then that shiny pressure switch is the new pressure switch, and then the hot lead up here that turned out to be on all the time. I just can't understand. I mean, it looks like it's original wiring, but I can't understand why that would have been hot. But I mean, if it was all the time, I mean, again, the thing would just run and turn off when you're not even using it. So it's kind of weird. So I put that simple switch on it so I can just turn it off, turn it on when I need to use it for, when I'm parked, which I do like to use the air leveling. So that's anywhere where I fished all the wire down there, tied it off real nice. All right, and then here's the left dash control panel over by the leveling where I brought the switch. So it's just a nice simple switch with the on and off indicators. And then I ordered a little dash plate, which I'll mount here. That'll just say AUX compressor. It's about 1.5 inches long. And you could order those from a place called Comfort House, comforthouse.com. And you can order any kind of, dash plate in a single quantity. So I got one for that, and I got one for another switch for the bay doors down there by the door, because I had to replace that switch, and it didn't come with, lettering on it. So that was the air compressor project. Just swoop around while I'm here. The old 2008 Monaco. Of course, I've got videos on replacing all that. I had to get a new tire minder monitor. So I had my original one for the i10 system. With 10 sensors, I use 8, of course, on the 8 tires on the motorhome here. But all of a sudden, that thing just started, like an alarm was going off, and it would never turn off, and the window was, or the monitor was just black. So I got a hold of Tire Minder, and they sent me a new one, and it's working fine. The only thing was, the other one was already USB-C, and this is apparently an older model because it's got the mini USB, so I had to do a converter here. No problem, it works, and it talks, of course, to all the sensors as you would expect, and also the extender that's in the back of the motorhome worked fine with all of that. You know, it's March 1st, 2026. Got her opened up here and got to do a little bit of vacuuming and cleaning and then wash the outside and get ready for our first cruise run coming up spring break. Another 3 or 4 weeks here, so then the season really gets going. So I'm just kind of knocking out a few of these projects. I got to finish the backup camera. I'm working on that all this simultaneously here. The next part on the camera will be, I got to open this up, and underneath there's, of course, the Aladdin tie-in box where the video cable comes in. And so I got to, convert the 8-pin cable for the old camera and connect it to the new connector harness for the 4-pin. So I got to finish that off. I got all the back pretty much done. I just got to go mount the camera. I'm waiting for it to dry some sealant on the final cable there. All right, that's the finished product. So I mounted 5 screws to my sheet metal vacuum plate that's behind this housing, and yeah, I gotta do the wiring up front and then test it. So hopefully everything's gonna work. Hey, howdy, folks. It's the continuation of the backup camera replacement. Always an interesting project. Okay, so I hooked the camera up and the wire harness yesterday, and so from my notes and what I received from RV Cams on the Voyager, the wires that I chose to use coming out of the 8-pin were going to be the red, the black, and the white, and I was going to take them to the red, black, and white, or from the red, black, and white. And then the only one that was sort of in question, the white being hopefully the audio, well, I'll make it the audio, red power, black ground. And then the clear, there was a clear one that had the kind of the mesh, so I'd originally hooked it up to the yellow that came in off the main harness, the 8-pin, right? Okay, so when you translate that to, the cable, so here's the big bunch of cable from the big 8-pin run. So here's where it connected, and then they had a harness here. The power and the ground went over to plug 35, which is under the dash over here. And then it's interesting, they have a green in here that's labeled 12-volt marker lights. Now, coming out the other end, that cable only went to the camera. There was nothing about going to the marker lights. As a matter of fact, I saw the power cable for the marker lights out back. So I'm not exactly sure why this green labeled marker lights is in this 8-pin cable that runs to the camera. I mean, it would appear you got power for the red. Oh, you know what it might be? This might be kind of like how you have a yellow and a red for power. So maybe one of these is driven more by ignition on and one's always hot. Maybe that's what it is. Huh. So I'm not exactly sure how that should have been wired on the other end. There was a green cable, which I didn't use. So we'll find out. I'm assuming that's one of those kind of power things. And then if I determine what that is, I guess I'll open it up back there and see how I could still use it. Maybe the two come together. I don't know. That's different. But because I used the yellow, it looks like if these match up like they should with the color, then this yellow is actually the video that I need. And it's interesting because I remember seeing the gray come out back there, and I didn't use the gray, but it looks like they were using the gray. So I know, that the video didn't work, and I suspected it was this. They used a different color than the one I tapped into in the back. So to test it, I'm going to hook up the yellow first, and then, hook the power back up and see if I've got video. Assuming that's good, Then the white, if these are matching the colors that are actually in this thing, that should be audio. And so I can use, the audio in the Aladdin system, which the input is this far right one down here. So the top one's video. It's actually this one that's open down here. That's where the purple yellow was in. And below it, you got audio, left and right. So I'll bring it into the white audio. So I should actually have audio coming through this system, and assuming it'll work, we'll see from the camera. But anyway, just kind of discovering what I have. I've been in here before when I first hooked all this stuff up and had to, I'll learn everything because the radio was actually not in the unit when I bought it, and I had to figure out what was what. So when I got back here, I did discover all this. Yeah, it's always interesting. There's a lot of ancient stuff in here that still works, apparently. Well, it's nighttime, and the camera's kind of hard to see, but I mean, it does have the IR feature, but I thought it would be better than that. Here it's cycling through, so this next one here will be the outside at night. I mean, the lights down on the road are lit up. You can see the ladder. Well, you can see down there. I don't know. I just would have thought it would have been brighter. So it'll be interesting to see how high quality it is, in the daylight tomorrow. All right. So what I ended up doing was there was already, this connection to the 8-pin right there. And basically right here is the old harness. And they had these wires. And I went ahead and just took the new harness, and I connected to the I cut the red and the black off over here and connected them in the harness, and then and the gray was the old video, the yellow is what I was using, so that went to the clear on the new one. And then what was weird is they had this green power wire. Let me turn this off, hold on. All right, let's try this again. I got it all unplugged. But this, was the 8-pin cable that runs back to the camera, and right here, it connects to a connector, which was the old harness. The gray is what fed the video. This green was a power wire that actually went here to the plug that went to the power, which had the red and the ground. And that goes to plug 35. You don't have a light on here. But anyway, that's down under there. And so anyway, so I cut the power and the ground and the green, because it turns out the green's not used. I tried the ignition and no change. So it was just like an extra. I don't know really what it was, but the red was the obvious power to the camera. But on this new harness, and it, had the plug here, but I just decided not to really cut into all that and just made up with what was there and already exposed. So I'll shrink wrap all this up, tighten it up. But basically, the yellow goes to the video in on the Aladdin box, the white to the audio. And it doesn't sound like, I didn't hear any audio, so I don't know that I'm really going to get any audio, but I went ahead and wired it that way. So that was the white cable. Yellow went to the clear cable on the new harness, and the greens are just cut off and not going to be used. So for anybody doing this, half the battle was just understanding what was under here and what were going to be the color wires that you needed to run through the cable for the new camera back there. Anyway, I hope that is self-explanatory enough. It always looks like a mess when you're working with this, so time to button it up. All right, so the camera, the backup camera, coming up here. Here comes there's the backup camera. Yeah, the quality is definitely improved over what was on her before. Honestly, I could hardly see what was on her. The side cameras, these side cameras they're okay. Of course, the sun's back there, so it's kind of glary, but it's the inside camera. And then this is the the new tire minder. The other monitor, I just turned it on, so it's sensing and picking up the sensors on each tire right now. But the other one was making like a horn, a loud, it was just a solid horn sound. It failed, whatever. So they sent me a replacement. I don't remember if I showed those on video, but the only thing was that before it had a USB-C, and this new one had the micro SD, so I had to do an adapter here for that. But no problem. Everything else is working fine with the extender and everything. And then I think I showed the switch I did for the auxiliary compressor, and then these dash labels I had made. This one auxiliary compressor, it fit with the, I think it was a 14 or 16 character limit. So I got that on there. See if we can hear it. I don't know if you can hear the pump, but it's right below me underneath. Again, the whole thing on that was that it was always hot, so I went ahead and just wired that in. So when I'm wanting to use the air leveling and put it in auto mode, I just will turn that on, and then it'll turn on and off with the new pressure switch like it's supposed to. Never understood why it was always hot. 12 volt to it. That's a very weird design. Probably why the pressure switch was worn out. I mean, who knows how many years it hadn't been working. And this was the other dash label I got. I just called it Bay Lights, but this switch cap, when I got the unit, was missing, and I couldn't find one that had the writing on it. So I just had bought a solid one here. So I went in and just put that down below so I know what that one is. But the place I got this is called Comfort. Oh, I think it was Comfort Home. I'll have to put a link to it in the description. But like I say, you can order individual dash labels. They're like $5 or $6, maybe $7 or something. So kind of a handy option. One of the projects I mentioned on previous videos was for the Aquahot, the reservoir that was up by the fuel tank. They went ahead and relocated it here. So they basically built this little stand and just mounted it into the plastic on the floor here, and then mounted this. I've got a funnel and a long hose that I can unscrew this and fill it from outside, probably with the help of two. One thing I was just noticing was that the levels only about a ½ inch down here. I would have thought it needed to be higher, but I'm gonna check with my guys tomorrow. I think it's okay. I think the main thing, of course you can't tell with this, not clear, but apparently they topped it off and maybe just a little bit, and this is truly for overflow, so an expansion, I guess, but it's probably all right. We'll check. The other thing was I just checked the freshwater sensor. I think the freshwater sensor might be out. I checked the Aladdin calibration and the settings, and when I was dewinterizing, I noticed, and I'll show it here in a second, but the display was showing the tank was full with a little green light, and then that never changed as I filled up the tank manually with the gravity feed. But the autofill button wouldn't work like normally when I would try to fill through the garden hose there. So and then actually the water pump wouldn't turn on either. So I pulled the switch inside in the back cabinet, came back out, and then the water pump worked when I turned it on. So I don't know if it was some kind of other reset. I mean, I've had battery cutoffs over the last couple of weeks before that. I would have thought that would have reset it. So I don't know, but it's all working. The only thing that's not working is the autofill, and I think it has to do, from what I read, about if the Aladdin sensor is saying it's 100% full, then it's supposed to turn off at 98% full for the way the autofill is intended to be used. So I assume that's why, but I'm not run into that before. And those sensors, kind of hard to find. They're all out of stock everywhere I've looked. So anything I could think that could be wrong. We'll see. Oh yeah, and this is the other project. So I'll talk about that in a second. So the Aladdin system, again, this issue I had with the autofill not working. it was always registering full when the tank was totally empty. And then when I filled it, it's full now. None of that changed even when I got it up. And then if you go inside and look at the Aladdin, I mean, it says 100%, 100%. And then this autofill never works. I think it's the sensor. I mean, the calibration settings look like they're supposed to, from what I could tell. So the only thing I can think is the sensor, the fact that it keeps showing 100% full. The other project I had, if you remember, was the outside faucet here. It was just that shower thing, and it was always leaking. So I got seals and tried to redo the seals and all the parts. And when I turned the water on after dewinterized, it was leaking everywhere. So I wasn't surprised. So I just got all that taken out, and then I just capped it off here with these. I think it's 3/4, and I think it was FHT. You know how they have the different 3 letters. I think it was FHT, but that worked. I threaded it, no leaks. And we never used that. And if somebody eventually, if we sell the unit someday, I mean, it'd be something they can put, you know, a whole new faucet in if they need it and all that, and shower. So, but we don't use it, so it was one less leak of something to worry about. Let's see, got a couple of projects going on the Monaco. So I got one of those Glendenning replacement water hose reels, 35-foot, 1/2 inch, and had talked to them, and they said this was the exact fit for what I had. So I did get a water sensor for the fresh tank from the Zone used RV. This is the next project. This is the old slide. Got the rails, the old rails. This is the second slide. I changed out one of these after I bought the bus with this more ride system. So this was the first one I did. And they're so much nicer, smooth, beautiful. So I'll be putting the second one in here, just kind of getting it aligned here. Draining the water tank from this last trip so I can work on the freshwater sensor. Hopefully that'll work again. No guarantee since it was a used part. And then I'm gonna, when the water's out, I'll also work on that water hose reel. So working on a couple things here. All right, so there's normally you would try to do 2 bolts like the old setup had in here, but there's really just, you know, one to mount it on here. Now I guess, you know, you could try to get a smaller bolt than what came with it, or even you could probably put one of these down there, I guess. I didn't do that on the other one. I haven't had any trouble. So what I did is I just used these shorter ones with the washer on these holes. There's 1, 2, 3 over here on each side, and then a couple more back there. But that was it. I got this one lined up with the old, and the dimensions to and fro here were about the same on both sides, pretty much, and centered. This one I had to drill. It was right next to the other hole, but here was one of them, and yeah, I had to drill that, and that's what I did on the other one too. And then on the back, I had to drill both of those in a similar way like that, because it just didn't line up. So you get those 4, you make sure it's all centered and it closes, everything's smooth, and then start putting the smaller screws in and kind of wrap it up here. I had, you know, with the holes that are left, I just have a bag of these, you know, plastic plugs for car stuff. So that's what I used last time. Just pushed a couple of these big ones in, and then some of the black ones for the smaller holes, and call it done. It's a lot smoother. So when we went to the cruise, MSC said they could handle my 42-foot bus, but they had some trouble in the entryway to their parking lot. It was a little bit of an incline, and I bottomed out, and it actually pulled the exhaust pipe off the Aqua Hot down here on the elbow. Now luckily it didn't damage the elbow, everything was just fine. It squished it, pulled it off. I don't know if we ran over it as it happened, but anyway, at the truck service center, put all new pipe, all new clamps here. It looks like did a really nice job. So we're all back together and ready to do some camping. Well, to do this right, this nut, it turns out, is going to be a 1.5 inch, so I went ahead and just got the socket and a breaker bar to have in the collection. So I'm getting ready to go break that one free. And then on this sensor I got used, it turns out someone dug out the membrane. You can see how it looks like someone cut that out of there. So when I took the one out on mine, I could tell it was not like that. So I cleaned mine up, put more tape on it, put it back in. We'll see. This is definitely was a waste of time and money. All right, well, there's the current reel. I just disconnected this, and so I went and bought that socket. I got room back there, it looks like, for that, and I didn't really want to try it with an adjustable wrench, so we'll see what we can do next.